Canine. I'm here with Fendi and Bambi today. I'm out at the cabin in Goodlettsville/Jolton, and I am just working these two dogs a little bit. This is a 6-month-old puppy that was found in Nashville. She's being fostered through NHA right now, but I think that it's going to end up being a good forever fit with her mom. If not, no big deal, she'll be trained. By the time that she gets back from her trip to India in 30 days, this dog will be off-leash trained. In fact, probably in the next week, she'll be off-leash trained. Before, she was coming in and attacking mom's hands. She was starting fights with the other dog, who was just laying on the couch over here being super chill. She was jumping up a lot. You saw her do that just a second ago. Growling at things, resource guarding, stealing things, just a pushy kind of dog. This is the thing. I'm not afraid of arousal because dogs are arousal on legs, okay? I'm not afraid of aggression because dogs are aggression on legs, all right? They're basically legs with a mouth. That's all that they do. She's already growling at me, wanting me to help shape her, okay? She's impatient, she's pushy. So what I'm trying to do is I need to be able, there we go, we're getting some of that controlled aggression, okay? So as I'm starting to work a dog, I need to make sure that I have access to those two opportunity quadrants, those two windows that say, I have a picture of being able to express energy out into the environment, okay? I need to be able to express energy now into you through play. I need to also be able to represent those inevitability categories of rest and of work. And as we work here, you see her bouncing all over the place. My relevance is very low. The hands are the pay and play mechanism of the body. The legs are the correction and inevitability portion of the body. So you'll notice that when she jumps up on me, I don't push her back down again because that's pressure. Pressure is designed to increase behavior, just like payment is. If I want to stop a behavior, I have to punish the behavior, okay? That doesn't mean that it has to be painful. It doesn't mean the dog has to be screaming or yelping or anything like that. It's an interruption in thought process that says, you are not allowed to do this. I would prefer that you do something different, okay? As we start to go through the different quadrants of payment and pressure and prevention and punishment, you have to realize that dogs understand punishment. They understand correction. And if you don't believe that, put an older dog with a younger dog any day of the week and watch that older dog advocate for themselves and advocate for their space and say, no, you are not allowed to do this. And show, more importantly, show no by biting that dog, okay? Now, am I gonna bite the dog? Probably not. Am I willing to? Yes, actually, yes, I totally am. Because here's the reality, is that 9 times out of 10, this type of dog that's drivey, that's pushy, that has opinions, that has that arousal, that has some of that kind of controlled aggression, is a dog that scares people away a lot. But probably 6 to 7 out of 10 of the dogs that are in a shelter or in a rescue are these dogs that came from nothing. They came from very little structure, very little exposure. A lot of times people would say, this is an aggressive dog. She's not. She's just pushy. She doesn't know anything. She doesn't have the structure. It's just like a child without any structure. She just doesn't know how to behave. So we have to show her that. And while we're in the process of using payment and pressure to build behaviors, we need to also practice prevention. That means that when the dog's not being directly supervised, it's okay to put the dog in the crate, to put the dog behind a gate, to keep them inside a fence, okay? With this particular dog, she's able to wander this property and she doesn't go very far at all. She may go 50 feet at the most away from the door. There are no fences on this property and she does really, really well. That is a huge blessing and it's a huge benefit, but that usually starts to go away around month 4. So if you have a brand new puppy that you've never socialized, that you've never done anything with, make sure that you start putting them on a leash at about that 16-week mark or that 4-month mark, because they're going to start to see that relevance doesn't just lie with you, that there are things in the environment that the dog finds reinforcing other than you. So what that means is you have to be kind of interesting, whether that relevancy comes from payment, whether it comes from shrinking the world through pressure, or whether it comes from controlling and preventing through control of the resources. Our resources, what are those? Well, number one is you, right? Food is one of them. I have my food here, but food is not always going to be motivating for every single dog that's out there. But if I withhold the food until the training time, then I have the opportunity to use food and to leverage food for training, okay? So what are my resources? You are the number one most important resource on the planet. This dog's family is everything to it. So if it always has access to family and it's up in your space and it's constantly encroaching on you, it does not respect you, okay? It may love you. It may know that you love it, but it does not have any respect for you. And that's super, super important to acknowledge, okay? The second thing is food. Food is something that every dog has to have to survive. So when a client tells me that the dog is not food motivated, I ask them, how long have you fasted this dog before? Because I feed my personal dogs 1 time a day. So that means that you should be able to fast this dog for 24 hours, and by the end of that day, you should be able to work that dog for food, especially if you make the payment process or the reinforcement process as much like play as possible. If it looks like a movement game where the dog is going out of my space, coming back in, going out, coming back in, and then I'm paying them for being still, then it's more than likely that that dog is going to find reinforcement in that exercise. So that's why as we start to go through how you start off training a dog, and I teach clients what's called the yo-yo game. The purpose of the yo-yo game is to teach a communication system that says, I need you to actually move out of my space, I want you to come back into my space, or I want to pay you in place, okay? The 3 words that I'm going to use in the yo-yo game are break, which sends the dog away, yes brings the dog into my space, and good pays the dog in place, okay? So break sends away, yes pulls the dog in, good pays in place, all right? As I'm going through teaching this communication system, it's very easy to see why it clicks for the dog, because it's very clear, and there's really one thing that I'm showing the dog. I'm charging those communication words, those marker words, those bridge words that bridge from the dog's behavior that they offer to the payment, all right? The purpose of that, same thing with punishment, is that when the dog performs a behavior that I want to pay or punish, I want to eventually fade out that payment or punishment. So I'm able to do that when I say no, and I give a knee pop. You know, she jumped up on me, I said off, pop, and I gave a little pop. She went right back down into a sit again. She went right back off of me. So the same thing should be true for payment. That dog should be able to trust that when I say good, I'm going to come into your space with that food. When I say break, I'm going to throw a piece of food away from me. And when I say yes, I'm going to pull you into my space. The importance of this game is that it teaches clarity from step 1. I do this is the exact thing that I do with every single dog, whether it's a puppy, it's a blank slate adult, or it's an aggressive adult. I want to make sure that that dog understands the communication system. It's also really great because it allows me to leverage space as a resource to be able to let that dog move inside a space so that they're not just constantly stalking me and fixating on me. I can make it about the food now. And if I can make it about the food, then I don't usually get reactivity, aggression, territorial, or possessive behavior. Okay? So the reason that our program is a catch-all for every type of obedience and every type of behavior is that it makes sense to the dog, it's clear, and by making it fun, we override all of the tension and conflict that you've dealt with in the past. I see a lot of trainers that will come into the home and they immediately are going to town on the dog with corrections. I'm sorry, but that's not going to work long term. And here's why. I cannot live with this dog forever. Okay? That is why Allegiant Canine stands for Training Dogs Together. It's a partnership. I work in partnership with the owner to be able to teach and coach that dog in every aspect, whether it be payment, pressure, prevention, or punishment. And sometimes those punishments have to happen. But if they don't realize that mom and dad are going to be the ones that correct them, that punish them, then I'm screwed. The dog is not going to retain that information later because everything is contextual and association based. This is why with our board and trains, I do not take the dog, do a bunch of training, bring the dog back to the home and say, good luck. I always do however many handoff lessons or however many weeks the dog was with me, I do that many free handoff lessons inside that person's home, letting the handler handle that dog 90% of the time. All right? So there's a reason why we do things the way we do things that gets result for the long term, that are real results that actually change not only the behavior, but the way that the dog perceives triggers, the environment, and the handler. If I don't have that, then I don't have a complete system. And if you ask your dog trainer, well, what is the plan for handoff lessons after a board and train, and they don't have an answer to that, that's a problem. If they want to do the private lessons, but they're not letting you handle and make mistakes and coaching you along the way, that's a problem. If the training is out of your price range, that's a problem. If the training is something that you cannot or will not do, that is a problem. That's why I need to work side by side with you in cooperation, as a partnership, as a team, to coach this dog to success. Okay? So as I start to work with a dog like Fendi, I'm keeping in the back of my head all of the dysfunction that I have seen with my own eyes. I'm keeping in mind all the things that the owner has told me specifically, this is a problem. Last night, she had a bone on the floor. We walked up to her to grab the bone. She growled at us and was, "Rrr." She's 6 months old. This is just experimental behavior. So she's playing with all of these controlled aggressions in ways that can kind of seem scary and make us think, oh, well, this dog is aggressive, or this is a problem dog. When in reality, she's a peach. She's been amazing. All that we've done today is just coexist together. And the benefit of that is I can learn and emotionally see that this is a dog that anybody could coexist with. It doesn't matter if it's her mom, her foster mom who's fostering her right now, or if she gets adopted by someone through NHA. All right? The reason that this is important is we tend to assign labels to dogs as soon as we see one behavior, okay? Have you ever done something aggressive or maybe out of character for you in your life? Yeah, probably you have. Maybe it was road rage. Maybe you made an offhand comment to someone that you love. In fact, those that we love, when we make those mistakes, those are the ones that hurt the most, right? Everyone makes mistakes. The hard thing is when a dog makes a mistake and bites a child or bites a stranger in the home, then usually the dog is euthanized, or they're rehomed, or they're sent back to the rescue at the very least to have some sort of interminable amount of time of training, quote unquote, that rescue is going to do. This is why Allegiant Canine works alongside shelters and rescues to be able to train those dogs actively, to see them for who they are, to work in those opportunity areas of freedom and play so that we can build enough of a relationship that we can actually practice work and rest, the two inevitability categories, all right? You can tell already that everything that I'm talking about is about balance. It's about emotionally being able to say, yes, this thing happened and I didn't like it and I don't ever want it to happen again. And I need a trainer to get me that control and compliance that I need, okay? Here's what I'm thinking in my mind. I hear you and I'm gonna get you that, but we're gonna do it in a way that's gonna be fun and engaging, and that instead of aiming at control, we're going to go way past control. We're going to aim for clarity, communication, and connection. All right? Because if I have connection, then I'm going to get control out the wazoo. Okay? I'm going to get all the control that I could ever possibly want or need. But I'm going to do it in a way that builds a relationship. Here's what I've experienced in the past when I didn't do this. I would come in, I would be the hero, I would correct the dog, I would show them how to correct the dog, I would show them how to have control and to get the work or the behaviors that the people wanted. The problem is, did two things. It didn't change the mindset of the dog toward the trigger, the environment, or their handler, and it did not increase the level of trust of that owner toward the dog and the trust of the dog toward the owner. That's the goal. Trust, respect, connection, and actually building a partnership with that dog. So when I say training dogs together, this is threefold, just like a triangle. The handler is at the pinnacle of that point, all right? That means you have to be the one that decides to put in 5 minutes of work, 5 minutes of play, and 5 minutes of freedom per day to that dog at the very minimum in order to get some biological fulfillment so that that dog is not overwhelmed with stress. Now, when you first start training, you may have to do 10, 15 minutes of each of those things just to catch up, just to alleviate the deficit that you've gotten yourself into. That lasts usually about 2 weeks, and then you can go back down to 5 minutes. 15 minutes a day is not a whole lot. In fact, I would be willing to bet that you're taking your dog on walks that are at least 30 to 45 minutes, and the dog is still having bad behavior. They're still reacting to other dogs. They're still practicing resource guarding and aggression and being territorial and possessive inside the home. Maybe they're even biting your kids, all right? This is a problem because walking the dog does not fall in the category of play or of freedom. That dog needs to run at full speeds and chase things and dig and jump and sniff things. 65 to 75% of every dog's brain is olfactory. What does that mean? If they're not using that little schnoz, then they are not getting the fulfillment that they need. So if you live in an apartment or in a neighborhood where that dog's not able to go and just run and express energy into the environment, then that dog is not going to be 100% fulfilled. A lot of times people can get away with just the walks because maybe the dog is super unhealthy or fat and they don't really want to do a whole lot. But then you start to see later in life, you start to have some control issues, okay? The dog sees a baby coming towards them and they snap at the baby. You adopt a new puppy. The puppy walks up to them. They say, hey, this is my house. This is my environment. I'm going to advocate for myself and I'm going to bite that puppy, maybe even causing some damage, okay? If you don't do this stuff, it will catch up with you eventually, all right? So this whole idea of the 4 windows, I stole it. I stole it all. Everything that I teach is stolen from another good dog trainer who actually knows what the heck they're talking about. But more importantly, I've seen it in play with so many different dog owners and aggressive and reactive dogs that immediately, usually within a week to 2 weeks, 100% game changer in that dog's personality, their stress level, and how they see the handler, the environment, and every single trigger. Okay, so this is why this stuff is so important, all right? So when we're talking about those 2 opportunity categories, do not hesitate to go get a 50-foot long leash, maybe a 30-foot. It kind of depends on how big of a dog that you have. I usually use a 50-foot. get a 50-foot long leash, hold it at the very end. You're going to take the loop of the leash, wrap it around your thumb, and grab that leash, and you're going to let that dog just go hog on the environment. You take them to an open field, you can take them to a park, connect it to a flat collar, and just let them zoom all over the place. They need that. And more importantly, they need to understand that you are the one who is giving them access to that environment, and therefore you are the leader. You are the feeder, and you are not the one who's sitting back going, I don't know what to do, right? You're in control because you're the one who gives access, and you're the one who controls when we go into that category of engagement, okay? So if you're not doing some of that freedom stuff, the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to buy a 30 to 50 foot long leash, all right? The second thing that I want you to get is a treat pouch, all right? This is actually a nail pouch that I bought off of Amazon. It's called AWP. It has contents on here. It has a belt clip. It also has a thing that you can run your belt all the way through, all right? The idea of having the treat pouch is keeping reward on you to maintain relevance and improve engagement whenever you're out in the world. You're allowing the dog to experience things in the world. So you can pay or withhold based on the dog's response to things. So that's the second thing that I want you to buy, all right? The third thing that you need is a flat collar or a martingale collar that's not going to slip off the dog's neck, okay? It doesn't have to be a training collar, but if you want to, you could totally get a slip lead. Mad Dog Products has an amazing product line of 1/4 inch by 6 foot slip leads that are really, really, really excellent for training, okay? That is the only type of slip lead that I use is Mad Dog Products. It's a 1/4 inch and it's 6 feet long, okay? Has a nice little toggle that you can put high up on the neck that you can allow the dog to walk with you, and you can actually show them if you run, if you forge, if you lunge, you're going to hit the end of that leash and you're not going to get the result that you want, okay? I can allow the dog to find that correction at the end of the leash. More importantly, when I'm having the dog zoom around, I can clip my long leash to that slip lead to allow the dog to find that correction at the end of the long leash so that way they know there is a limit to how far I can go, all right? The purpose is not to hurt or harm the dog. The purpose is to allow the dog to find a correction at the end of that leash and therefore to gravitate towards you, which will then be reinforced through food, okay? The last thing that I want you to get as part of this puppy or beginner starter pack is some kind of fetch and tug toy that you can actually engage with the dog. The reason why a ball does not work very well is that you cannot grab hold of a ball and tug it very much. The dog steals it away from you very quickly. Tug is a controlled aggression game that allows us to actually push the dog around and to put hands on the dog and allow them to growl and bark and bite and lunge to the toy. All right? A lot of times people will say, well, the dog, whenever we're playing, they put their mouth on me. And I say, it's probably because you're not doing it right. I can help you with that. We turn the tug into a luring game, a prey game, and the dog goes after the toy, and as they start to go after it, I move it. So I start building a little bit of curiosity, some frustration, some possession with that toy, and now I feel safe having that dog direct energy into me, okay? So we talked about freedom, we talked about play, we went over all of our equipment, long leash, slip lead, treat pouch, and a toy, and obviously your food, okay? I just use the dog's kibble. I don't buy any extra treats because some dogs have super sensitive stomachs, and let's face it, treats can be really expensive, okay? So today, when I'm training with Fendi, I've just been using her kibble, and I've just had this little treat pouch connected to me. You could totally do some existential food reward where you're just only feeding the dog through the treat pouch. That's totally fine. What I typically do is I'll do one meal inside the crate mixed with water, and then I'll do one meal through the treat pouch, obviously not mixed with water. So I'll just do kibbles, okay? So that should kind of get your brain focused on the things that you need to be able to have the most success the fastest, okay? if I'm starting off a workout regimen, if I have a new personal trainer or something like that, probably my number one thing is I want to know how can I lose weight and shed some pounds really fast, and then the muscle kind of comes as we start to build, okay? That's what I'm talking about. I want to start to cut the fat a little bit. So as we start to engage with that dog, I want you to be able to cut off all of the extra fluff and flubber, and to be able to be very specific with your expectations, with your education, and with your enforcement, okay? I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that you understand exactly where I'm coming from with the 4 windows, but also with the 4 conditions of canine training. If I'm not using payment, pressure, prevention, and punishment, then this dog is going to have gaps in their training. They're going to have times where they don't understand, and I don't have a way to show them how to understand. So if I build a communication system through payment, if I shrink the world through pressure, if I show them that I'm in control of resources through prevention, and that I'm able to show the dog this is not correct through punishment, and show them what is, then I'm going to have a dog that understands me, that puts relevance on me, that we have a relationship, that they understand that they're supposed to respect me, and most importantly, that when they get that correction, once we've built that relationship, that they immediately redirect to an approved behavior that is safe and payable, okay? If I correct the dog and they just shut down and they're like, oh, this sucks, right? That's not very fun. So if I can balance my training and start to complement all 4 of those things by using each other, by using punishment, I can fade out my pressure. By using punishment, I can fade out my prevention. The dog can start hanging out inside the house. They don't have to be in the crate. They don't have to be behind the gate. By using punishment, I can fade out my reward, okay? Here's the thing. I have found in my experience that if I can do 1 level 2 correction per bad behavior for that dog, it's gone forever. Forever, okay? 1 or 2 in the dog's entire lifetime. Now, you may go a couple years down the road and maybe some environmental changes and the dog kind of relapses or regresses a little bit. That's understandable because dogs are not computers. It's not a television that I'm clicking a remote and saying, sit, tap, 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 trying to get the dog to be a computer. That's not it. That's also not how the e-collar works either, by the way, all right? Everything that I teach a dog, I teach through motivation, I perfect it with pressure, and I proof it with punishment, okay? I think the guy's here to drop off some wood. Either that or there's a ghost. Freaky. So in this orientation video, I know it was a little longer, but I want to get your head centered on what exactly do I need to focus on, okay? The number one thing is I want you to write down a list of all of your expectations of behaviors that you want, things that you want to pay, all right? Then I want a list of things that you want to punish or decrease the likelihood of, okay? So that would be barking at the door, barking at other dogs, lunging at people, resource guarding, whatever the bad behavior might be, digging in the backyard. I want you to make a whole list for me, okay? And I want to read through these things together, okay? So we need to set those expectations and those intentions at the forefront. The second thing that I want you to do is go ahead and purchase your long leash, your slip lead, your toy, and your treat pouch, and make sure that you're using a good high quality kibble that's not just complete garbage. If you are getting, an Olroy or Kibbles and Bits, you could probably afford to grab something a little bit more high quality, but I know vets that's all they feed their dogs, and their dogs look great and they live until their late teens. So it's one of those things where I'm not going to be super picky. As long as the dog will work for it, then it's a valid payment, okay? Fendi, come here. Yes, good girl. Very nice. Notice that I only said that one time, okay? I'm going to just wrap this up really quick so that we can roll right into the yo-yo game, okay? So write down your lists, get the equipment, and please let me know if you have any questions. As we're training your dog together, I want to make sure that the expectations on both ends are very clear, and that the expectation is that we are a partnership. This is not something that I can or will do for you, because all results that I get independently are temporary, okay? Love you guys. We're going to roll right into the next session. I'm going to hit stop really quick, and then we're going to start to do some charging your markers, okay? Love you. Talk soon.